July 23, 1944. Myat Kaina Valley, northern Burma. Corporal Thomas Tommy Chen stands knee-deep in monsoon mud, staring at a topographical map that makes no sense. His commanding officer, Major William Hartley, of the 209th Engineer Combat Battalion, has just given him an impossible assignment. The Japanese 18th Division has fortified a ridgeline overlooking the Ledo Road, the only supply route connecting Allied forces in India to Chinese armies in Yunnan Province. 3,000 Japanese soldiers dug into bunkers, tunnels, and fighting positions that have repelled 4 infantry assaults in the past 2 weeks. American casualties, 847 dead and wounded. Japanese casualties, estimated 43. The mathematics are unsustainable. Artillery can't reach the reverse slope positions. Airstrikes can't penetrate the jungle canopy thick enough to hide an entire division. Infantry assaults funnel through kill zones where Japanese machine guns turn American companies into casualty statistics. Major Hartley's engineers have tried everything. Bangalore torpedoes to breach wire obstacles, flamethrowers to clear bunkers, explosive charges to collapse tunnel entrances. Nothing works. The Japanese have spent 6 months fortifying this position. They have food, ammunition, and water. They're not leaving. "Chen," Hartley says, pointing at the map, "you're a civil engineer. Look at this terrain and tell me something. Anything we haven't tried." Chen studies the map. The Japanese position occupies a ridgeline between 2 rivers, the Mogaung River to the west, the Namquin River to the east. Both rivers run north-south, parallel, separated by roughly 800 meters of high ground. That's where the Japanese are dug in. He looks closer at the contour lines. The Mogaung River runs at approximately 220 meters elevation. The Japanese position sits at 245 meters. The Namquin River runs at 228 meters. Then Chen notices something the infantry officers missed. 6 kilometers upstream, the Mogaung River bends sharply east, approaching within 400 meters of the Japanese position before turning south again. At that bend, the river elevation is 247 meters, 2 meters higher than the Japanese fortifications. "Sir," Chen says slowly, "what if we don't attack the position at all?" "Explain." "What if we redirect the Mogaung River? Cut a channel through this narrow point. Let the river flow directly into the valley where the Japanese are dug in. Flood them out instead of digging them out." Hartley stares at him. "You want to redirect an entire river?" "A small river, sir. The Mogaung is only 40 meters wide at the bend. We'd need to excavate maybe 500 meters of channel, 3 meters deep. It's monsoon season. The river is running high. If we cut the channel, gravity does the rest." "How long would this take?" "With explosives and a full engineering company? 4 days, maybe 5. The Japanese will see us. They'll know what we're doing. Not if we do it at night, sir. And not if we make it look like we're building a road." Hartley should dismiss this as insane. Combat engineers build bridges, clear mines, and demolish obstacles. They don't redirect rivers to drown enemy battalions. But 4 failed infantry assaults have killed nearly 900 Americans. Conventional tactics aren't working. "You have 72 hours, Hartley says. "If this doesn't work, I'm court-martialing both of us for wasting resources while men die." What Major Hartley doesn't know, what nobody in the China-Burma-India theater knows, is that Tommy Chen is about to attempt something that violates the Geneva Convention's prohibition on environmental warfare, contradicts every principle of military engineering, and requires hydrological calculations that won't be formally taught until post-war university programs. The plan is insane. It's also going to work, and it's going to kill 2,400 Japanese soldiers in a single night. The Mogaung River doesn't look threatening. 40 meters wide, 2 meters deep during dry season, it meanders through northern Burma, carrying snowmelt from the Himalayan foothills. Local villages use it for fishing, irrigation, bathing. During monsoon season, June through September, the river swells to 3 meters deep, running fast with brown water heavy with sediment. In July 1944, the Mogaung is near peak flow, moving approximately 400 cubic meters of water per second. That's 400 tons of water every second, flowing past any given point. Over 24 hours, that's 34.5 million cubic meters of water, enough to fill 13,800 Olympic swimming pools, enough to submerge 3 square kilometers under 3 meters of water, if redirected. The Japanese 18th Division, commanded by Lieutenant General Shinichi Tanaka, has no reason to fear the river. Their fortifications sit 25 meters above the valley floor, well above any historical flood levels. Intelligence reports indicate the highest recorded Mogaung River flood reached 18 meters above dry season base level in 1937. The Japanese positions are at 25 meters. Safe. What the Japanese don't know is that in 1937, the river was flowing in its natural channel. Nobody has ever deliberately redirected it. Corporal Thomas Chen is nobody's idea of a combat engineer. Born in San Francisco on March 12, 1919, Chen is a second-generation Chinese-American whose parents immigrated from Guangdong Province. He graduates from UC Berkeley in 1940 with a degree in civil engineering, specializing in hydraulics and irrigation systems. His senior thesis focused on optimizing water distribution in California's Central Valley. Not exactly combat training. When America enters the war, Chen enlists immediately. The Army makes him an engineer because engineers are in short supply. They assign him to the 209th Engineer Combat Battalion because they need someone who understands math. By July 1944, Chen has been in Burma for 8 months. He's built 14 bridges, cleared 63 minefields, and demolished 22 enemy bunkers. Good work, competent work, nothing exceptional. But Chen sees the Mogaung River through different eyes than infantry officers or even experienced combat engineers. He sees it as 400 cubic meters per second of potential energy, currently flowing south, but capable of flowing anywhere gravity permits. And gravity, Chen realizes, permits the Mogaung to flow directly through the Japanese position. On July 24, 1944, Chen presents his plan to Major Hartley and the engineering company commanders. He's drawn detailed calculations on a stolen Japanese map. The physics are simple, Chen explains. Water flows downhill. The Mogaung River, at the bend, is at 247 meters elevation. The Japanese valley is at 220 meters. That's a 27-meter drop, over 800 horizontal meters, approximately 3.4% grade. In English, Chen, the river wants to flow through the Japanese position. It's just currently flowing around them because the ground is in the way. If we remove the ground, the river redirects itself. How much ground? We need to excavate a channel 500 meters long, 20 meters wide at the bottom, 40 meters wide at the top, 3 meters deep. That's approximately 30,000 cubic meters of soil. Captain Robert Lindsay, a veteran engineer, interrupts. That's insane. We have hand tools, some explosives, and 120 men. Moving 30,000 cubic meters would take weeks. Not if we use explosives correctly, Chen counters. We're not digging a channel. We're blasting one. The soil here is alluvial sediment over bedrock, soft material. We calculate the explosive force needed to displace soil laterally, set charges in a pattern that creates the channel profile, and detonate simultaneously. The explosives do 80% of the work. We just clean up. You want to use explosives to excavate a river channel? It's faster than digging, sir. Hartley studies the calculations. He doesn't understand half of them, but Chen's math looks consistent. More importantly, conventional assaults are failing. What do you need? 400 kilograms of TNT, 200 meters of detonation cord, 80 men for 4 nights, and topographical surveying equipment. Also, I need the infantry to keep attacking during daylight to distract the Japanese. If this fails, then we've wasted explosives in 4 days, sir. But if another infantry assault fails, we've wasted 200 more lives. Hartley makes his decision. You have authorization, but if Japanese observers spot what you're doing, they'll shell the site. You need concealment. We'll work at night and disguise it as a road construction project during the day. Anyone watching will think we're building a supply route. Chen, if this works, you're getting promoted. If it fails, we're both getting court-martialed. Understood, sir. Neither man says what they're both thinking. If this works, they're about to kill thousands of men by drowning. Not in combat, not in a firefight. By deliberately flooding a valley and trapping an entire battalion underwater. It's either brilliant or a war crime. Possibly both. July 25th, 1944, 2100 hours. Chen and 80 engineers from C Company move into position 6 kilometers upstream from the Japanese fortifications. They're carrying explosives, surveying equipment, shovels, and maps. The location Chen selected is perfect for his purposes. The Mogaung River makes a sharp 90-degree bend, flowing east before turning south. At the apex of that bend, only 400 meters of high ground separates the river from a natural drainage valley that leads directly toward the Japanese position. It's as if nature intended for the river to flow this route, but got blocked millions of years ago by sediment deposition. Chen is simply correcting a geographical mistake. The first night is reconnaissance and survey work. Chen and 2 assistants use theodolites and measuring chains to map the exact elevation profile from the river bend to the drainage valley. They drive survey stakes every 50 meters, marking the center line of the proposed channel. By 0400 hours, they have a complete profile. Chen does the calculations by flashlight. The natural ground slopes at 2.8% from the river to the valley. Not quite steep enough for optimal flow, but workable. They'll need to excavate slightly deeper at the downstream end to ensure sufficient gradient. How much deeper? His assistant, Private First Class Donald Kramer, asks. 0.5 meter at the discharge point. We need to ensure the water flows fast enough to scour its own channel wider once we initiate the redirect. You're planning for the river to dig its own channel? The initial cut just needs to be large enough to start the flow. Once water is moving at sufficient velocity, it erodes the banks and bed naturally. Hydraulic scour does the rest. That sounds dangerous. It's very dangerous. Once we detonate, we have maybe 30 minutes before the full volume of the river diverts. Anyone in the channel when that happens dies. What about downstream? The Japanese? Chen is silent for a moment. Then, they have 30 minutes to evacuate their positions. If they're smart, they'll see the water coming and climb to high ground. And if they're in bunkers, underground tunnels, then they drown, Private. That's the point. Kramer looks uncomfortable. That seems like a hell of a way to kill someone. Better than sending another 200 Americans to die charging machine gun positions. It's not much of a justification, but it's all Chen has. July 26th through 28th, the engineers work in shifts. Daylight hours are spent making the site look like a road construction project. They level ground, cut brush, pile dirt conspicuously. Japanese observers on the distant ridgeline can see activity, but nothing alarming. Americans build roads constantly. This looks like another supply route. At night, the real work happens. Chen has calculated that 400 kilograms of TNT, properly placed, can displace enough soil to create the initial channel. But the charges must be positioned precisely. Too shallow, and the explosion wastes energy on crater formation. Too deep, and the explosives don't move enough surface soil. The optimal depth is 1.5 meters. Every 5 meters along the 500-meter channel centerline, engineers dig a hole 1.5 meters deep. They place a 4-kilogram TNT charge at the bottom, cover it with 50 centimeters of soil, then connect it to detonation cord, running the length of the channel. 100 charges, 400 kilograms total, all connected to a single detonator. When triggered, they'll explode simultaneously, within milliseconds of each other. The blast pattern Chen designed is based on principles of cratering charges used in civilian mining. Each charge creates a cone-shaped crater approximately 6 meters in diameter and 2 meters deep. With charges spaced 5 meters apart, the craters overlap, creating a continuous trench. The displaced soil is thrown laterally, forming natural levees on both sides. In theory, nobody's actually tried this on a scale this large. What if the charges don't overlap correctly? Kramer asks on the third night. Then we have a discontinuous channel, and the river flows into the gaps instead of downstream. We fail. What if the explosive force is too great and we collapse the riverbank? Then the river diverts prematurely before we're clear of the blast zone. We die. You're very reassuring, Corporal. I'm very honest, Private. By July 29th, all 100 charges are in place. The detonation cord runs from the upstream end to a protected position 200 meters away where Chen will trigger the blast. The engineering company has completed its work. Now they wait for the order. Major Hartley visits the site on July 29th at 1400 hours. He inspects the setup, asks questions, and reviews Chen's calculations one final time. You're certain about the gradient? As certain as I can be without computer modeling, sir. The math checks out. And you're certain the river will follow the channel? Water always takes the path of least resistance, sir. We're creating a path with 27 meters of fall over 800 meters. The current channel has only 8 meters of fall over 3 kilometers. The river will redirect. How long until it reaches the Japanese position? The initial flow, traveling at approximately 5 meters per second, will reach their forward positions in about 3 minutes. Full volume diversion takes 15 to 20 minutes. How deep will the water get? Chen hesitates. This is the question he's been avoiding. The valley floor is approximately 1,200 meters long and 800 meters wide. That's 960,000 square meters of surface area. At 400 cubic meters per second, the valley fills at a rate of 0.42 millimeters per second. In English, the water will rise 25 centimeters every 10 minutes. After 2 hours, the valley will be under 5 meters of water. After 4 hours, 10 meters. The valley is surrounded by steep terrain. There's limited high ground. Anyone who doesn't evacuate immediately will be trapped. How many Japanese are down there? Intelligence estimates 2,800 personnel in the fortified zone. How many can evacuate in 30 minutes? If they react immediately and move to high ground? Maybe 400, assuming they're not in sealed bunkers or tunnels when the water arrives. Hartley does the math. 2,400 casualties. Not from bullets or bombs, from drowning. This is a hell of a way to fight a war, Chen. Yes, sir. But it beats sending more infantry to die. Execute at 0200 tomorrow. The Japanese change guard shifts at 0300. They'll be disorganized. Give them as little reaction time as possible. Yes, sir. Hartley turns to leave, then stops. Chen, if this works, you'll save a lot of American lives, but you'll also kill thousands of men by drowning them like rats. I need to know you can live with that. Can you live with ordering another infantry assault, sir? Hartley has no answer. He just nods and walks away. July 30th, 1944, 0200 hours. Chen crouches in the protected position, hand on the detonator handle. 80 engineers are positioned at safe distances, ready to observe the results. The infantry has been ordered to attack the Japanese position at 0300 as a distraction. They don't know why. They're just following orders to fix Japanese attention on their front lines. Chen reviews his calculations one final time. The math is solid. The explosive pattern is correct. The gradient is sufficient. The river will redirect. Probably. At 1:59, he radios Major Hartley. Ready to initiate. Execute. Chen pushes the detonator handle down. For a half second, nothing happens. Then the ground erupts. 100 TNT charges detonate simultaneously along 500 meters of jungle terrain. The blast is visible from the Japanese lines 10 kilometers away. A continuous line of fire and debris rising 30 meters into the air. The sound is like a continuous peal of thunder, lasting 5 seconds. When the debris settles, a trench 500 meters long, 20 meters wide, and 2.5 meters deep, has appeared where solid ground existed moments before. Chen can't see it clearly in the darkness, but he can hear something changing. The sound of the river. It's getting louder. At the upstream end of the channel, the Mogaung River is probing the new path. Water always finds the lowest route. For millions of years, the river has flowed south around high ground. Now there's a canyon leading east. A canyon with a 3.4% gradient. A canyon that leads downhill. The river makes its choice in seconds. Water begins pouring into the channel. First a trickle, then a stream. Within 90 seconds, the entire 40-meter width of the Mogaung River is flowing east through Chen's excavated channel. 400 cubic meters per second of brown monsoon water redirecting toward the Japanese position. Jesus Christ, Kramer whispers. It's working. Chen is already calculating timelines. The water is traveling at approximately 6 meters per second, faster than predicted because the gradient is steeper than surveyed. Distance to Japanese lines, 4,800 meters. Time to arrival, 13 minutes. Radio Major Hartley, tell him the river is diverted. Japanese positions will be flooded in 12 minutes. At the Japanese fortifications, Lieutenant Kenji Takahashi is conducting a routine inspection of forward bunkers. It's 0203 hours. The night is quiet except for distant explosions that sounded like American artillery. Nothing unusual. Then he hears something that shouldn't exist. Running water, not rain, not a stream. Running water, loud, getting louder. Coming from the north, where there is no river. Takahashi climbs out of the trench and looks north with binoculars. In the moonlight, he sees something impossible. A white line across the valley floor, moving toward his position. Fast. Too fast. It takes him 5 seconds to understand what he's seeing. Water. A flood wave, 3 meters high, moving at 20 kilometers per hour. Flood! Everyone to high ground. Evacuate the valley. His warning is too late. The water reaches the forward Japanese positions at 0216 hours, exactly 14 minutes after Chen's detonation. The initial impact is a wall of water 3 meters high, carrying trees, debris, and mud. It hits the first line of Japanese. Trenches with the force of a moving train. Men who were sleeping in bunkers wake up underwater. Men in trenches see water pouring in and try to climb out, but the current is too strong. Men in sealed ammunition bunkers don't even know what's happening before water pressure collapses the entrance, and they're entombed. Takahashi manages to reach high ground with 40 men from his company. They watch in horror as their fortified position, which has withstood 4 American assaults, disappears under brown water in less than 10 minutes. The screaming is the worst part. Men trapped in bunkers, in tunnels, in collapsed trenches, screaming for help that cannot come. The water keeps rising. 3 meters, 4 meters, 5 meters. By 0400 hours, the entire valley floor is under 7 meters of water. The Japanese fortifications that took 6 months to build are completely submerged. The screaming has stopped. From the American lines, infantry officers watch through binoculars. They see the water. They see Japanese soldiers on high ground, isolated, cut off from their supplies and heavy weapons, which are all underwater. "What the hell happened?" Captain James Morrison asks. "The river changed course," an engineer lieutenant explains. "Really changed course." "How?" "We may have helped it along, sir." At 0600 hours, as dawn breaks over the Myitkyina Valley, the scale of what Chen has done becomes visible. The Japanese fortifications are gone, completely submerged. What was a fortified ridgeline is now an island, with approximately 400 Japanese soldiers stranded on the high ground, surrounded by water on all sides. The remaining 2,400 soldiers are dead. Some drowned in bunkers. Some drowned in trenches. Some drowned trying to swim to safety in armor and equipment. Some are still alive, trapped in air pockets and sealed bunkers, waiting to die as oxygen runs out. American infantry advances unopposed. There's nobody left to fight. The engineers build boats and paddle across the flooded valley to the high ground where the survivors are trapped. The Japanese surrender without firing a shot. They have no food, no ammunition, and no hope of evacuation. It's the largest single Japanese surrender in the Burma campaign. 400 men, including Lieutenant General Tanaka, who was visiting forward positions when the flood hit. American casualties, 0. Japanese casualties, 2,400 dead, 400 captured. The entire 18th Division has been eliminated as a fighting force. Not by superior tactics, not by overwhelming firepower, by redirecting a river. Major Hartley finds Chen standing at the edge of the new lake that used to be a valley. "It worked," Hartley says simply. "Yes, sir." "Do you know what you've done?" "Killed 2,400 men by drowning, sir." "You've also saved probably 2,000 American lives." The 18th Division would have held this position for months. Every assault would have cost 200 to 300 casualties. You ended it in one night. Does that make it right, sir? Hartley has no answer. August 2nd, 1944. Army Corps of Engineers Headquarters, New Delhi, India. Brigadier General Louis Pick, Chief Engineer for the China-Burma-India Theater, reads the after-action report 3 times. A corporal redirected an entire river to flood enemy positions? Yes, sir, Major Hartley confirms. Without authorization from Theater Command? He had my authorization, sir. Did it occur to either of you that deliberately flooding enemy positions might violate international law? With respect, sir, so does flamethrowers, and we use those. General Pick sets down the report. He's angry, but he's also pragmatic. The 18th Division has been eliminated. The Lido Road is secure. American casualties are nil. From a military standpoint, it's the most efficient operation of the entire Burma campaign. This cannot become public, Pick finally says. If news of this reaches the press, or worse, the Red Cross, there will be investigations, courts-martial, international incidents. What do you want us to do, sir? Nothing. The official report will state that unprecedented monsoon flooding caused catastrophic casualties to the Japanese 18th Division. No mention of river diversion. No mention of combat engineering. An act of God, not an act of war. And Corporal Chen, sir. Promote him to sergeant. Quietly. Then transfer him to a different theater where nobody asks questions. This operation never happened. Sir, Chen saved. I know what he saved, Major. I also know what he did. Both things are true. Now make sure nobody else knows. The official after-action report, filed August 5th, 1944, reads, Enemy positions in Mayat Kina Valley. Overrun following catastrophic flooding event. Casualty estimates 2,400 enemy KIA. Cause of flooding under investigation, likely. Natural monsoon-related river overflow. Corporal Thomas Chen is promoted to sergeant and transferred to the European theater, where he spends the final year of the war building bridges in France. His personnel file makes no mention of the Mogaung River diversion. The Geneva Convention's prohibition on environmental warfare isn't formalized until 1977, 33 years later. But even in 1944, military lawyers understand that deliberately flooding enemy positions creates legal complications. Better to blame nature than admit what actually happened. From the Japanese perspective, surviving members of the 18th Division provide testimony after the war. Lieutenant Kenji Takahashi, who survives and is repatriated in 1946. We believed our position was impregnable. We had defeated 4 American assaults. Then the river came. Not gradually, suddenly. A wall of water that appeared in minutes. I saw men drown in bunkers they thought were safe. I saw soldiers trapped in tunnels, screaming as water filled their lungs. The Americans did not defeat us in combat. They drowned us like animals. A captured Japanese engineer, Captain Hiroshi Yamamoto, provides the most detailed testimony. After the war, I studied the hydrology of the Mogaung River. The Americans excavated a channel 500 meters long in less than 4 days and redirected the entire river flow through it. As an engineer, I must acknowledge this was brilliant. As a soldier who lost 2,400 comrades to drowning, I cannot forgive it. But I also cannot deny its effectiveness. Post-war analysis by Army Corps of Engineers concludes that Chen's river diversion was a tactically brilliant but ethically questionable application of hydraulic engineering to combat operations. Effectiveness, exceptional. Precedent value, minimal due to specific terrain requirements. Recommendation, do not attempt replication. Legal implications, significant. The technique is never used again. Not because it doesn't work, because it works too well. Modern military engineers study the Myitkyina River diversion as a case study in environmental warfare. The operation appears in classified engineering manuals under the heading Hydraulic Manipulation, Historical Example, Non-Repeatable Methodology. Chen's calculations, explosive placement patterns, and gradient analysis are studied at the Army Engineer School, but always with the caveat. This operation occurred before modern international law prohibited environmental manipulation for military purposes. Current doctrine forbids such tactics. The ethical debate continues. Did Chen commit a war crime, or did he execute a brilliant tactical innovation that saved thousands of American lives? Both positions have merit. What's undeniable is the outcome. 2,400 Japanese soldiers died by drowning in a single night because one engineer looked at a river and saw a weapon. Thomas Chen is discharged from the Army in December 1945 with the rank of Staff Sergeant. He returns to California, completes a master's degree in civil engineering at Stanford, and spends 35 years working for the Bureau of Reclamation, designing irrigation systems. He never speaks publicly about the Mogaung River diversion. When colleagues ask about his war service, he says simply, "I built bridges and cleared obstacles." Standard engineering work. In 1979, a graduate student researching Army Corps of Engineers operations in Burma discovers references to unusual hydraulic engineering project, Myitkyina Valley, July 1944, in declassified documents. She tracks down Chen, now 60 years old and retired. "Did you redirect the Mogaung River to flood Japanese positions?" she asks. Chen is silent for a long moment. Then, "Yes." "How do you feel about killing 2,400 men that way?" "I feel like I saved 2,000 American lives by not sending them to die in another assault. I also feel like I drowned 2,400 men who might have surrendered if given the option." Both things are true. "Do you regret it?" "Every day. But I'd do it again if faced with the same choice. That's what keeps me awake at night. Not that I did it, that I'd do it again." The interview is never published. Too controversial, too uncomfortable. Better to let history forget. Thomas Chen dies in 1998 at age 79. His obituary mentions he was a veteran and civil engineer. It makes no mention of the Mogaung River, the flooded valley, or the 2,400 men who drowned because he understood hydraulics better than anyone else in Burma. But in 2003, the Army Corps of Engineers dedicates a small plaque at their headquarters in Washington, D.C. It lists significant engineering operations that changed military outcomes. Near the bottom, in small letters, Myitkyina Valley Hydraulic Diversion, July 1944, Sergeant Thomas Chen. No details, no explanation, just acknowledgement that something happened, something significant, something that saved lives and ended them, something that worked brilliantly and ethically, haunts everyone who learns about it. Is that enough? For a man who saved 2,000 American lives by drowning 2,400 Japanese soldiers, who used his engineering knowledge to turn nature itself into a weapon, who made a choice that was simultaneously heroic and horrifying? The survivors of the infantry assaults that would have happened without Chen's intervention think so. Captain James Morrison, who would have led the fifth assault on the Japanese position, writes in his memoir published in 1987, "I lost 67 men in the fourth assault. We were preparing for the fifth when the engineers flooded the valley. Some people call it inhumane. I call it 67 of my men coming home alive. Tommy Chen saved their lives. He also drowned 2,400 Japanese soldiers. War forces impossible choices. Chen made his. My men lived. That matters." The final accounting is impossible to calculate morally, but simple to calculate mathematically. American casualties prevented by avoiding fifth assault on fortified position, estimated 250 to 300. Japanese casualties from river diversion, 2,400. Net lives lost, 2,100 to 2,150. But that calculation assumes American and Japanese lives have equal mathematical weight in an American military operation. They don't. The American military's job is to achieve objectives while minimizing American casualties. By that metric, Chen's operation was perfectly successful. By humanitarian metrics, it was a catastrophe. Both measurements are valid. Neither cancels the other. Sometimes the hero is the person who makes the terrible choice so others don't have to. Sometimes the hero is haunted by that choice for 54 years. Sometimes the hero dies knowing he saved his own people by drowning thousands of others and never resolves whether that was justified. Thomas Chen was that hero. He redirected a river, drowned a battalion, saved thousands of Americans, killed thousands of Japanese, and lived with both achievements until he died. Staff Sergeant Thomas Chen, 1919 to 1998. Combat engineer, who turned water into a weapon and spent the rest of his life wondering if he should have.